Thank you, Guru Maharaj, for the very nice answers. I have a question on Yat Karosi Yad Asnasi. The point came, give yourself and everything to Krishna. So I have a question when it comes to work. Even though it is said like give fruits and like even if it helps me to stay here for service and everything, but when I do work, it doesn't feel same as reading Bhagavatam or going out for Sankirtan and everything. So it doesn't feel same Krishna conscious as when we are doing work. And also it comes when I'm doing devotional service, these thoughts about work and everything. So how to really, even after doing this thing, how to feel really Krishna conscious when doing work?
Can I have the Prabhupada Shloka book? Do you have one handy? Oh, sorry, we took yours. There's a verse that relates directly to this, which is spoken by Krishna. I know the verse, but it won't hop into my head right now. That means I don't know the verse. So, yeah, it's 11th canto. Krishna gives this guidance. Tavat karmana kurvita na nirvidyeta yavata matkata shravanadova shraddha yavana jayate. That's 1129, 11.20.9. As long as one is not satiated by fruitive activity and has not awakened his taste for devotional service by Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, one has to act according to the regulative principles of the Vedic injunctions. How does it apply? Well, in a practical way, recently when Sachindra Krishna drove us somewhere and we said, how's it going? He said, well, looking forward to getting back to work and for school starting. I said, what do you mean? And he said, too much extra time. Because he said, kids are out of school. No, anyway, I'll give you the conclusion. School's a good thing. In fact, sociologically, one of the main purposes of school is to keep kids busy for a long time until they mature. And work, he said, I welcome it because I had to do something. I mean, he trained for years. He's a doctor. How much training do you do for that? And then what are you going to do as a doctor? You got to be really attentive and in there. Work's not bad. It's good. We have to work with our senses. When there comes a time, tavat karma nakurvita nan nirvidyeta yavata matkasha shravanadova shradayavana jayate. He said, when there comes a time when you don't need anything else but hearing and chanting. If you can say that now, let's see. Can you stay engaged 24/7? Maybe. But even then, if you have some work, it's good to, and you have a situation where you have to do it in order to stay in your service, that's purifying. Because when you get more time, you won't take it for granted. What's better? Someone who lives in Vrindavan, and they're thinking in their mind, I should go to Delhi and watch a video. Or somebody who lives in Delhi, and they're thinking, I have sit on the back of a motorcycle to get to my factory job, but I wish I was in Vrindavan on Parikram. Which is better? And so there's this way in which Krishna gives us this tension point in our life where we have to work and do devotional service. When we get to the point of where the guy in the desert who's dying of thirst and someone offers us a glass of water, I'll pay $1 million for that. That's what this verse is saying. When you get to that point with your hearing and chanting, that I can't live without it, I'll pay $1 million if you'll read me a verse. Or allow me to chant undistracted by anything like that. It gets so intense, then you're there. You can live that life, but otherwise work's good for you. You have to work to maintain yourself. Krishna says in Karma Yoga, you see, even kings like Janak, they set an example. Even though he was a Paramahamsa, He still went out and worked because he wanted to show all the citizens that work's not bad. You got to do it. Just do your work and be hungry for Krishna consciousness. Take full advantage of what you can. And there will come a time when you won't have to anymore. And I've seen it. I remember my good friend Satyadev Prabhu had the worst job in the world, which was to be a paramedic. It was like being in the war zone 24, every day, war zone. Very heavy, heavy work. And he did it for 20 years, and then it just stopped. And, how are you guys doing? Fine. I mean, economically fine, everything fine. And when he was in the midst of it, he had to sleep in a firehouse 3 days in a row. And he didn't know when the alarm was going to go off, and they were going to have to break his sleep, jump on an ambulance, and go to some gory scene where somebody just got shot or somebody overdosed or something like that. But I saw him during those times. We were, and still are, bosom buddies, and we'd hear him chant once a week. He'd come over, you remember. And he got to read one verse a day. And he said it was the most nectarian thing for him to read the one verse in that context where the rest of his life was absolutely consumed with this thing that he couldn't get out of. And then all of a sudden it just broke. And work karma is like that too. You'll just come to the end of it where it doesn't make any sense. And you come to the end of it if you continue hearing and chanting while you're doing your work. Vidyam chayas tadvedo bayam saha avidyayam ratum tirtva vidyayam ratum ashnate. Do it side by side, because then it builds into something where when the work does start to slow, you're like, oh, I got to work. Because some people can't even do it. They'll be in their 80s and they have interests around the world and businesses and everything like that, and they just can't stop doing it. And I met one person, last point. I met a person who was diagnosed with some rapid growing cancer, and he wanted to take shelter. I went there and spent time with him by his bedside. And he said one day, I want to give something to the temple. And he said, he asked his person who was helping him, bring me a checkbook. And he's writing it out. And he said, it's hard even doing this, he said to me. He said, I'm working my whole life being attached to everything I do, my work, my money. He said, just writing this check is very hard. I can't give it up. Even now, he said, I know I'm going to die in a week, but I can't, it's hard for me to even hand this to you to give to the temple. And, he could see everything, that his whole practice in life had been non-existent until the last couple months. He tried to do a Hail Mary and make up for it. And it's hard. So while you're working, develop that, whatever capacity you have, whatever you're given, do that and make it strong. And then when the work karma ends, you won't be like, oh, what am I going to do now? Maybe I'll get another job, even though you don't need one. You'll already be ready. You'll be spring-loaded. That part moves out and you move in. Your hearing chanting will just naturally take it up. And that makes for an organic way in which we live our lives, and we do what we have to do, and we also become Krishna conscious. Om Tat Sat.